I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard. We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello Lee Summit, I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of April 6th. The general municipal election is Tuesday, April 7th. Lee Summit voters can look up their council district, find their polling location, and view candidate filings on our city elections page. Visit our website at cityofls.net. Season passes are on sale for Summit Waves. A season pass costs $105 for Lee Summit residents and $140 for non-residents. Save $10 if you order before May 1st. Head to summitwaves.net to buy your season passes now. Volunteer for Stream Team and help protect our local streamside habitats by removing litter and debris from streams within the city's parks. This event will take place on April 18th from 10 a.m. to noon at McKee Park. Trash bags and gloves are provided. Student and Scout community service hours are available. Volunteers must register and sign a waiver before the event. Learn more at cityofls.net/greenls. And the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market is back in full swing. The Wednesday market will be at Green Street from 8 a.m. to noon. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
The City of Lee Summit has hundreds of traffic lights across its more than 1,000 lane miles, all managed by the city's Public Works traffic technicians. The work happens inside those metal boxes on the side of each intersection. Inside, technicians program a device called the controller. The controller communicates directly with each signal head via underground wires, telling each light when to turn on and off based on a programmed cycle. City traffic engineers design this cycle to allow traffic to flow as efficiently as possible for that particular intersection. In order to best match current traffic patterns, they install something called a detection system. Detection systems have taken many forms over the years, from sensors in the pavement to radar boxes. But in Lee Summit, they primarily consist of cameras, which workers mount above the traffic signals. These cameras don't record video or your speed. Instead, they monitor the spaces at the front of the intersection and identify when a vehicle is present in a specific spot. Once a vehicle is identified, the detection system sends a message to the controller, which then adapts its standard cycle to best serve the cars that are present. The pedestrian button works in a similar way. When the button is pressed, the controller receives a signal, requesting that it allow that section of the pedestrian walkway to go, which it then inserts into the signal pattern. Technicians also install something called a conflict monitor. The conflict monitor is a device in which they program all the potential patterns of lights that would lead to a collision. If the other systems mistakenly trigger those patterns, the conflict monitor sends the intersection into flash, causing all lights to flash red and directing drivers to treat it like an all-way stop. City traffic technicians implement and maintain these systems so effectively, we rarely consider them. But every time we safely pass through a signal-controlled intersection, it's all thanks to their work. So the next time you're waiting at a red light, remember the delicate coordination of super smart systems that move you through that space safely and efficiently every day.
Officers en route, 914, armed robbery.
I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor!
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Community Economic Development Committee for Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Hodges?
Here.
Vice Chair Carlisle?
Present.
Councilmember Pryor?
Here.
Councilmember Funk?
Present.
Planning Commissioner Trafton?
Present.
All right, and next is public comments, and it looks like we do have one from a Mr. Ed Kramer. Oh, doctor. He doesn't have doctor on here.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Hodges and committee members. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ed Kramer. I'm a retired family physician and a longtime advocate for improving community health and safety here in Lee Summit. I served for many years on both the Health Education Advisory Board and the Livable Streets Advisory Board. Currently, I serve on the Wellness Commission, and I chair the Commission's Livable Streets Committee. I want to thank Captain Mike Murray with the LSPD for making today's presentation on e-bikes and scooters. Captain Murray, I just know this is going to be excellent because I've heard it before at the recent meeting of the Livable Streets Committee. E-bikes have a lot of good things to be said for them, and that's not why I'm here. I have concerns, we have concerns. The Wellness Commission's biggest concern about e-bikes is the safety issue, particularly the safety of young e-bike riders. Young teenagers or even preteens are often seen darting around the streets and sidewalks and parks on small e-bikes or larger e-bikes. And are they ever having fun? But they have no experience driving a vehicle or studying traffic laws to pass a driver's license test. And that puts these young people at a particularly high risk of crashing and sustaining major injuries when riding on our city streets. Frankly, as a father and grandfather, I look at these kids and I just worry that bad things may happen. The Wellness Commission and its Livable Streets Committee have discussed all this, and we look forward to helping the LSPD and City Council to address this issue. There may be opportunities to update regulations and enforcement. There is certainly a great need for public education. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for partnering with PD to work on this. I'm excited to hear that. All right, moving on to 4A. Can I get an approval of the March 11th, 2026 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter?
Oh, Chair, I move that we approve the March 11th, 2026 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter.
Second. All right, I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Funk?
Aye.
Chair Hodges?
Aye.
Vice Chair Carlisle?
Aye. Okay, item 4B, the 2026-7559 presentation of e-bike and e-scooter regulations.
Thank you, Chair. Committee members, Mike Murray, Traffic Safety Unit Commander for the Lee Summit Police Department. This topic's obviously reared its head for a while, and it seems to be getting a lot of momentum, and rightfully so, not only in the police department, but with different committees with the city. We're dealing with HOAs. There's just a lot of questions that revolve around the topic. And I think it's important as we get going, if you'll indulge me, I'm gonna bore you a little bit with some definitions, because I think people throw this e-bike verbiage as a collective blanket over what we're dealing with, and they're really siloed. So just to kind of go through some definitions to make sure we're all talking the same language before we can actually have a legitimate conversation about things. So the city defines a motor vehicle as any self-propelled vehicle that requires registration by law. I won't read them all, but the important parts. So registration by law on a motor vehicle. A motorcycle, though, 2 wheels or 3 wheels, so doesn't really require registration, but by our definition it would, right? So we all know what a car is, a motor vehicle, or a motorcycle. This is where it gets kind of wiggly when we get into our definition of motorized bicycles or motorized scooters. They can't go over 30 miles an hour. If they have a gas engine, they have to be under 50 cc's. If they have an electric motor, they have to be under 2,237.1 watts, which translates to 3 horsepower. The whole idea of these ordinances was 3 horsepower. Everything needed to be below 3 horsepower, really for a speed-related issue and what the devices are capable of. But that definition, I'll kind of bounce back and forth because you're going to see when these ordinances were drafted, I think we're behind where technology is now and what we're dealing with. So the ordinances are kind of clunky, if you will, to string together to come to some sort of enforcement level. Neighborhood vehicle, those are our golf carts. We remember those conversations when we legalized golf carts and we kind of put them under a neighborhood vehicle. They're the only thing that would be underneath that neighborhood vehicle. And then a scooter, 2 or more wheels, and they're what we think of, the platform that you would stand on with 2 wheels that you see the kids riding the scooters. But people tend to use this e-bike definition and throw it over the top. And the e-bikes are probably the best defined that we have. They're under 750 watts. There's a type 1, 2, and 3. Type 1 and 3 are pedal assist. This is probably the easiest one to use because it's got a visual, right? Class 1 and 2, or class 1 and 3 are pedal assist. Class 2 is simply throttle. You don't have to assist it with the pedal. That becomes part of it as well because class 1 and 3 are allowed certain places. Class 2s aren't. Class 2s can't be on sidewalks. And it becomes, as I paint this picture, you can imagine the difficulty. I mean, a lot of us are like, if it has pedals, it's an e-bike. If it doesn't, we move on to something else. But there are 3 definitions as far as they go. And there's speed-related issues too. 20 miles an hour for class 1 and 2, 28 for class 3. So you've got those different things, but they are the best described and siloed out. So if we think e-bikes, which tends to be this blanket word we use, they're really these 3 classifications over here with pedals. When you start getting into our ordinances, again, I made the comment, it's a little clunky because you have to jump around to different ordinances because they're mentioned in different places, such as this. This one really talks about city parks. Class 1 and 3 e-bikes are allowed in parks. Class 2 are not. However, Class 2 is allowed on the trail that we have going all the way through Lee Summit up into the Rock Island. Yeah, thank you. So it gets, again, kind of convoluted on where they're allowed, where they're not. Class 1 and 3 can be on sidewalks. Class 2 can't. They can all be in the roadway. They're just like any normal bicycle. Then you get to e-bikes again, where it talks about they can't be on sidewalks in the downtown area. They can be on sidewalks anywhere else in the city, but not in the downtown area. If you are riding one, you have to yield right-of-way, those types of things, to pedestrians, give audible signals. So we have ordinances all over that cover e-bikes. Again, this section D is about what trails are allowed, what trails aren't, where they're allowed. Again, on trails, there's a lot of trail issues to go along with our city parks on what they're allowed on, what they're not. Width of sidewalk they can be allowed on, those types of things. 2950-512 just says traffic laws apply. Well, traffic laws apply to bicycles as well, too. You're supposed to make a complete stop. You're supposed to signal your turns. It's just allowing those traffic laws to apply to e-bikes as well. They have to have lights, reflectors, those types of things. And then 518 and 519, again, just allow us to use existing ordinance for motor vehicles with people on e-bikes. But then you get into motorcycles, the motorized bicycles, which traditionally are the ones we're having our troubles with. Those are where most of the people are calling from. Many of those will go over 30 miles an hour, some up to 60 and 70. They look like what you and I would call a mini bike growing up, or an electric dirt bike, electric motorcycle. You get into those, you have to have a motorcycle's license, which means you have to be at least 16 or older. They have to pass an inspection, but some of them can't be registered like a license plate because they don't have the equipment. They don't have headlights. They're dirt bikes, no different than a gas-powered dirt bike that we would see. And those are the ones that we're really starting to see much more frequently and are not an e-bike classification. They're in this motorized bicycle or motorized scooter classification. Again, they have to be, we have several ordinances on where those can be ridden, where they can't be ridden. So we have a lot of things in place. They're just difficult and clunky to find and how to apply. If you're on private property, you have to have permission from the property owner to be on them, just like you would a dirt bike. And I think what we're starting to see is in Lee Summit specifically, parents are buying these just like our parents bought us Huffies and bicycles as we were going up, and then just sending their kids out on the roadway. And to follow with with the comment, you're now putting a child on something that's going 28 or faster miles per hour, which sounds slow until you're on a bike. I mean, I don't think any of us could probably ride a bike at 28 miles an hour except at the end of a big hill, and now you've got something that can sustain that speed on a flat roadway. So it becomes problematic, but I could point out that if you went to any middle school when school's in session, these things are all parked just like we used to park our bicycles. They're riding them to school and back. It has become the new bicycle that we dealt with when all of us were growing up. So these ordinances are all over the board. So trying to find, you have to go to this one to get a definition to find out how to apply it to this one. It becomes somewhat difficult for our officers. So that step one is we're really going through this process of educating our officers on what is it that we're dealing with? Because like I said, there's another whole classification now that I didn't even discuss of what I would call a motorized dirt bike or a motorized motorcycle. These are speeds of 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. These routinely, not routinely, but have run from us, which obviously we're not going to engage in any type of activity like that, knowing that one, they're kids, and two, we're just not going to push something like that. We wouldn't do that. But so there's an education on, am I dealing with an e-bike? Am I dealing with a motorized bicycle or a motorized scooter? And it becomes difficult when you pass one to go, what was that when it went by? Should it be doing what it's doing? And I think most of us have seen these things you're buying now at Walmart, at Target, at Home Depot, at Lowe's, at Tractor Supply, over the internet. And you know, you look at these and go, what is that? Well, does it have pedals? Let's put it in the e-bike classification. If it doesn't, now what are we dealing with? And if you look at some of these, remember, I said under 50 cc's, you can see most of those are 40, 45. And then what kids will do, which is, I would have done it too, is they'll modify it as soon as they get it. They take the governor off, they modify it, it's not used the way it's just designed to be used, and they're off to the races. And they don't all look the same, right? So I just have these as some visuals so you can see exactly what we're dealing with. You know, that's electric. That you buy that at Target. It says 17 miles an hour, but it's faster. But it's under 30, but it's not an e-bike. So now we'll go into what classification and how would we enforce that, and if we could get them stopped, and exactly what we're dealing with. And then again, just different visuals. These are e-bikes. These have pedals. Now, some are class 1, 2, or 3. We don't know, but they're going to have pedals, so they're going to fall in the e-bike category. And these are just Walmart figures. These are Lowe's. These are what I would call a mini bike. But again, some of them are below that 50 cc. Some of them are above. How do you determine that? And how do we deal with that? This is just cool, so I put the picture in there. I mean, I would ride one of these when I was 12 in my neighborhood for sure. But now this is a gas engine, but if you'll see, it's under the 50 cc's. It's 40 cc's. But I think we can all agree I don't want a 12-year-old out tearing through a neighborhood on something like this. It's low profile and it's going to be dangerous. But it doesn't really fall neatly into a category of how we go out and try to enforce it. And then again, just a couple more visuals. This is a scooter that can go upwards of 22 miles an hour. I think it's just inherently dangerous, but let alone putting a child on it, and then is it on a sidewalk or whatever the case may be. We had an accident last week involving an 11-year-old on one of these on the roadway. So we do have some issues, no doubt. We just need to kind of catch up on our enforcement. So there's a big officer education piece. There's also a timing and location piece. We had 48 calls for service, reference these in the last 12 months. Meaning someone called into dispatch, we dispatched to it. That doesn't count the large number of officers just attempting to make contact or making a contact just on the day-to-day when they see it. But many times when people call, we have to be in the right place at the right time and try to find them. We've done such a fantastic job in the city of connecting our parks, but they're taking trails from neighborhoods down into the parks, coming out in other neighborhoods. It just becomes very difficult to try to pin them down. We have had some good success stories on finding out where the individual may live, going and educating parents and working with parents to try to prevent it. But it just, sometimes that's just not possible. think it's important to remember from a detainment issue, we can't stop them and issue them a ticket and send them on their way, right? But anybody under the age of 17 is considered, or 18 is considered a juvenile, which means, use a fishing phrase, if we catch them, we clean them. Once I've got them stopped, if it's a detainment issue, I've got to stay with them until I can release them to a parent or a guardian. Sometimes that can take hours. So now you've got this, I'm going to stop and have to stay with this child for however long it takes. Meanwhile, there's other things going on within the city. So it's a balancing act with that, because we can't ticket a child. You have to be at least 15 to get a ticket to go to court. So and a lot of these are 11, 10, 12, 13. They're not going to be eligible for that, which means if we do get them and we want to have some accountability, where do we send them? So I've spoken with Youth Court, or Lee Summit Youth Court. They will accept it. This is a traffic ordinance, so generally they've never tried that, so we had to make sure they would accept that. They're discussing a little bit about bylaws now, because the bylaws of Youth Court kind of limit how many times an individual can come to Youth Court before they get sent to Jackson County Juvenile Court, which this isn't, I think we'd all agree, this is not the right thing to be sending down to Jackson, to juvenile court. So there's some accountability issues. And ultimately, I think we all recognize parent involvement equals the long-term solutions. And if we don't somehow get that, we're just going to constantly be dealing with the same issue over and over and over. When I talked about the motorized dirt bikes, just for a reference point, you're talking about a $5,000 and up device that people are buying for their 14, 15, 16-year-olds to ride out on the street, and they're being ridden on the street. So how do you go tell a parent? It just becomes kind of problematic. But I think the long-term solution is parental involvement. Some of the things we've done, we're going to do some social media posts to put out what's allowed, what's not, and kind of describe this same type of thing. Is it an e-bike? Is it a motorized bicycle? Or is it just an electric motorcycle? And try to get that. We're trying to tap in how we can get in front of parents and guardians. We tried to tap into some HOA contacts, because the ones that have good newsletters, we're trying to drop in some information with that. Again, to alert our citizens how we would do that. We discussed point of sale opportunities, to where if you're buying these things at Lowe's or you're buying them at Home Depot, some paperwork goes with you that you can hopefully read and educate yourself on what's legal, what's not. Our impact program, which is our program in the schools, replaced DARE, now utilizes some of their topics on decision-making, consequences, and they've weaved in these dirt bikes and these devices on to help make better decisions. And our SROs are talking a little bit about high school. It's not hitting yet what we're finding in that 4th, 5th grade, and it goes away by the time we can get a real car, right? But it's that middle window, so it's that middle school age that we're dealing with on a fairly regular basis on how to get this information out. But again, we're dealing with what we did with bicycles. They just now go faster and go all over. And we're aware, and we're just trying to figure out the best way to hold people accountable with a measured response. But the reality of it is we're going to have additional accidents, which we do with kids on bicycles, regular bicycles. But that's, I think, something that is just a reality. With as many as we're seeing and the speeds that are involved with some of these, it's just my opinion, it's just going to happen. So that's really kind of it, but I think it's important to at least stop calling everything an e-bike, because I don't think anybody wants to get rid of e-bikes. In fact, I know that's not our goal. Those are used on our parks. They're used for, exercise and wellness. That they're a good thing if used properly. These other ones, well, again, like I said, if I was 14, I'd want one, but we can't. We're going to have to figure out a way to manage it better. And we have a lot of discussions ongoing with all these different groups, with our prosecutors, with how do we best tackle this. We've reached out to other communities to figure out what exactly they're doing. They're dealing with the exact same, very similar things we're dealing with when it comes to this. And we're just trying to figure out the best way to go. It's really all I had, just to get to, I don't know, if a conversation or questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Just kind of get us all on the same sheet of music.
Yeah, thank you for that. You guys have, go ahead.
So just first, are we trying, or you trying, or somebody trying to get all these definitions and the regulations and everything into one place? Like rewrite that part of the ordinances?
Yeah,
or-
I've had conversations with our prosecutor. We're all kind of in agreement. And I think it's just good practice to go back and review things and make sure it still means what we wanted it to mean years ago when we wrote it. And as I said earlier, technology and what we're seeing, that didn't exist when those were originally written. So I think it's appropriate that we go back and at least make it easier to understand. I mean, in the 10 minutes that I've been up here trying to sit down with a parent and explain, or when a citizen calls and goes, why can they do that? It's a tough walkthrough to get everybody on the same sheet of music. So yeah, I think there are conversations occurring right now to figure out a better way to classify and organize. Mark, I was just found out, is doing a white paper on it to try, because it's such a community-wide, nationwide problem, to try to get everybody on the same sheet of music. Because everybody's really like this. We had to address the e-bikes years ago, and now it's the same thing we did then.
Okay, and so just in what you've reviewed so far, do you think what we currently have covers everything, or do we need new ordinances to start covering things?
I think we cover 99.9% of it, but just not in a really easy applied way.
Right.
I think some definitions could be cleaned up a little bit, and then maybe not have to jump all over the place to try to find things.
Okay.
So I think we've got it. It just needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Put together. Got it. Thank you.
And I guess I should add, that's assuming the council and the stakeholders want us to continue to go down that direction. If there's a different decision that was made, like, hey, we're just gonna ban them, well, that's an easy ordinance to write. So if we want to allow them, we have to have ordinance that allows us to navigate what we can do and what we can't do.
Did you have something, me, or no? Do you have anything? Okay, go ahead.
So, Ms. Albers, do we need to take this, what we have, are you guys going to tinker with the ordinance a little bit? Or?
So Councilmember Funk, the Wellness Commission, the Livable Streets Committee is already working with the police department. They're reviewing the presentation that Captain Murray gave. Look, they're going to wait and look at the white paper that's coming out from Mark that's going to work on some new definitions for categories, and then fulfilling their function to be a policy advisor to you. They'll be making some recommendations to you with staff support of what those might look like. They're also going to be working on some public education campaigns to try to help better inform parents. We won't change all people's minds, but they may be able to change a handful, which is better than nothing. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. So, I guess my question is, I know you said we could just ban them, but what would be, in your opinion, the best way to tighten it out? What could we change to say, this is what's missing, and this would be the most beneficial to actually be effective?
So I will use a couple examples where we have been effective. We've been able to identify a house. We then started a paper, if you'll walk with me through that, we started a paper trail. We contacted the child at this date, this date, this date. Now we've contacted the parents this date, this date, and this date. And then the prosecutors, the willingness to go, it's no longer a child issue, it's a parent issue. And that's who we would do. But if that was over months at one house, and it was successful. I mean, once the parent realized there's accountability to you as a parent for not managing this, the activity quit. That's difficult to do when there are dozens across the city. So I think having an easier enforcement path to youth court, because there I think there's the documentation that the individual went through youth court. Our youth court program is fantastic. That's not if you're not familiar with it, that's more of a letter or understanding consequences or an apology letter, that type of thing. But what it does, it timestamps not only the juvenile, but the parent being made aware of what's illegal and what's not. Then if it goes beyond that, then I think one option is for parental accountability. That, if you've been told not to let your child do that, it's dangerous, but yet you continue to allow your child to do something, there's some accountability there. It goes back to parents need to be involved in the solution, whether negatively or positively. Otherwise, it's just, how many times will a police officer have to tell 12-year-old stop it. If nothing comes on the backside of that, then why stop? I don't know the exact way to build that, but we're starting those conversations now with youth court, with the prosecutor's office on how does that look? What does that look like?
So were you saying that parent accountability, yes, but can the parent be fined or ticketed for?
Yes.
Okay, so
and
I wasn't clear
that's
on
why
that. Okay.
it worked. I just maybe being hesitant of saying there were some child endangerment options.
Yeah.
Because you allowed your child to continue to engage in.
So at what point would you do that?
Well, right now we don't have a definitive point. The 2 times that's been successful, we've had to go sit down with our prosecutors and go, here is everything that I can articulate timeline-wise. Are you comfortable with it now? And they said yes. But there was a paper trail. It wasn't the initial contact because we would much rather have an education piece and a voluntary compliance side of it. But with that, they were able to say, not only have you interacted with the child on multiple occasions, you've interacted with the parents on multiple occasions, the behavior is continuing, so do it. And that's why I think the youth court path naturally builds that. There was a date that the parents had to be there. There was a date where the child was already held accountable. We've accomplished that part of it. So I think, our prosecutors are willing to go that route, but not initially. And I don't think we want to do that initially.
Right.
But where is that sweet spot towards like, now it's time? It's not defined, like there's not a definitive time.
Is that something that we should or could define, just so that way it's okay? So that way, because sometimes I feel like if you give too much grace, then it's just abused. And I say that because so many times I've heard from, because this has obviously been an issue that as council members hear a lot about, and then I myself have been on, the Blackwell Trail and just come by, but I'm thinking if I had, when I'm thinking when I had toddlers, I let them walk ahead of me.
Sure.
If I'm pushing a stroller, I let the little ones, they would have gotten nailed. So I guess thinking in those, or elderly people, they can't move out of the way quick enough. So what happens if that juvenile hits somebody or, God forbid, kills somebody over that? Because, you could, if they're small enough, that's going to do some damage. So what does that look like? Because that's what we're trying to prevent ultimately.
Sure. And, looking at those ordinances, we already have ordinances on how you're supposed to yield, how you're supposed to alert somebody before you overtake them, what is allowed on a trail, what's not allowed on a trail. So to come to a resolution of what you just described, we have to assume, one, I've got them, which is difficult to begin with. But let's say we've got them and we've notified them. We can do things in our report system where we can indicate on this date we make contact with the parents, we explain the behavior, we can do all that. That's not really a decision for me. That's more of a decision on what a prosecutor would be willing to accept. And I don't think you can say at 2 you do, at 3, because maybe 1 was so egregious that we're willing to do it at once. So you have to have that flexibility and not say you get 2 freebies and it's the 3rd time we're going to amp up the ante. I think every situation depends, and so it's hard to say. And I think we'd have to have a bigger conversation with not just me up here. It was going to be more from what is the city comfortable with, what is the prosecutor's office comfortable with, before we would move forward with that. I can just say we have been successful on a couple of occasions, but it was over time, and I could sit there and articulate every day, and they finally went, yeah, it's time to go to the next step.
So what would be, so if people are reaching out to us, or just even ourselves, if we see it, what is the best way to handle it? If you're seeing it repetitively in your neighborhood, or just where they're not supposed to be, it's dangerous. So what is the best way for somebody who's seeing it repetitively? Because I've heard the complaint, well, if I call, they're gone by the time somebody's going to get there. So what is the best way to handle that?
Obviously, from our standpoint, if we could know an address to go to, like I see it every day and this is where he or she lives, at least now I've got a starting point to contact a parent. And then we can start the documentation. So, and we get that. And our officers now know if we're in a particular area and they took off, we're just not going to start driving around looking for open garages and see if we can find them. And we do a lot of contacts that way as well. So I don't know if there's a one-size-fit-all. By all means, contact us and we will send somebody out. But we're seeing it almost like you are. And a lot of it's not just the device, it's the behavior on the device. They're capable of doing wheelies up and down the streets and then kids are kids, and so sometimes they don't like the interaction that they have with adults. So there's a behavior issue too that draws attention to them, which can get factored in maybe to some decision making as well. So by all means call, and then we will do the best we can to try to, I think first and foremost, we're still at the point where we'd much rather educate and see if it changes. For some it might. For others, we'll have to take a different path. We just know that from what we do. But by all means call if you see it, especially if it's dangerous behavior. I mean, there's an education piece too. If they're just e-bikes riding down the street, we still have citizens that think that's illegal. And it's not. They're going 25, but it falls within that classification, so it's not illegal. But there's other citizens that call and go, they're going 60, and they are. And we probably need to be made aware of that so we can go in and try to put it into it.
Okay, thank you. And I know Councilor Pryor has another question.
I did. You actually kind of addressed it a little bit. So when I was door knocking, you could definitely tell the neighborhoods. There are specific neighborhoods that had a lot more issues with it than other neighborhoods. Because pretty much every door I would go to, they'd bring up, well, they were calling them e-bikes. And at the time I thought they were e-bikes also, but now I know they're not. So yeah, my question was just basically, what can they do when they're seeing that? I had one lady that was very shaken up because it had just pretty recently happened, but it was, I'm guessing it was not an e-bike. It was one of the smaller ones, and it was a young person on the sidewalk, almost ran over her dog, came around the corner and almost ran over her dog that was on a leash. So that was my question, just what can they do when they experience something like that? Do they call 911? Is there a way we can put, can we put that on, is that something that could ever go on the LS Connect app? Like, I don't know the best route to direct them.
I think the answer to all that's yes, right? 911 we would like to reserve for emergencies, but we still get, you take the non-emergency number is what we like to, but I think there's an education piece that we were talking about too, just from the community on how my HOA, you'll always get non-emergency numbers as published. If you see something, call this number. I think there's a lot of ways to get the information out. Will people read it? Will people follow it? That doesn't mean we can't try. So we push the information out in a whole lot of different ways. But we would never say don't call, right? We just need to recognize that it may be by the time we get there that individual's gone. Doesn't mean we're not going to still try to find a house to go make contact with parents or whatever the appropriate follow-up is. It's just a balancing act too. What we want to do is prevent the tragedy, and if we can get in front of it, then it's a win. So yeah, we need to know about it.
Okay, perfect. So just probably direct them to non-emergency?
I would prefer, as frustrating as it is, this wouldn't constitute an emergency in my opinion. So I would prefer to keep the emergency lines open and use the non-emergency line if they have it.
Okay, is there anything on the LS? I feel like Mr. Park's pretty familiar with the LS Connect app. Is there anything on there that we could direct them to the app? Or I don't think there is a tab, or I guess Mrs. Weber might know.
So the police department is not integrated into LS Connect, but there is a way to report and it's not used very often. We can sort them through, but using the non-emergency line would be the best way.
Okay. As Ms. Weber said, yeah, there's nothing specific to that, and most like law enforcement activities aren't through LS Connect, but there's another category that maybe they could submit it as, hey, we have a concern in the neighborhood, like any other type of concern worth investigation and follow-up. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We've actually received it on our tips line, unlike the kids that live at this address are terrorizing the neighborhood type of thing. So, but at least we have some place to go right as a starting point. I don't really care how we get the information. I would like to leave the 911 lines open, but the tips line and however we can link it, we got to have the information to be able to respond. I think it's going to take a little bit. I think all of these, in speaking to our impact officers when they're sharing it, how many of you, speaking to a 6th grade class, how many of you know that you have to follow the rules? You have to stop at a stop sign. So it starts there, right? It starts turning the ship to where maybe they're out and they won't run that stop sign, or they will yield at a crosswalk because now they know. So it's.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for that.
You're
That was
welcome.
very informative.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to Roundtable. Does Anybody have anything? Oh, thank you.
Yes, we will miss you.
Thank you. Any staff roundtable?
So first of all, we are going to extend our thanks to the chair for her service to the community, both as a council member and the chair of this committee. So many thanks.
Thank you.
Additionally, congratulations to the 2 council members who were reelected last evening. And then finally, staff would like to convene the committee next month, if it's possible, for consideration of 3 items. It's the update to the building code, fire code, and property maintenance code. Mm-hmm.
They normally take May off, though. Cool. Sounds good. Well, maybe. Yeah, what day would that be then for them?
It would be too early, May 13th.
So you want to convene this committee less the chair?
Correct. We'd ask Councilmember Carlisle to chair.
If new appointments haven't been made by the
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could do that. I don't have anything as of this moment.
Understood.
May 13th?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
That'll be it.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Well, then we will adjourn this meeting at 4:41 p.m.
Wow.